Hello and welcome to Northwest Indian News. I'm Carissa Peapud-Gobin, a Tulalip tribal member. Previously, we brought you a story about a proposed coal export terminal threatening Lummi Nation's sacred grounds. Today, the story continues with a new healing totem pole carved to create awareness of the threats posed by coal.
A series of proposed coal export terminals along the West Coast have many people concerned about the increase in coal trains and their potential impact on our lands, waters, and way of life. Lummi Nation Master Carver Jewel James and the House of Tears carvers took their message of opposition on the road with a 22-foot totem pole. From Wyoming to British Columbia, they visited communities along the coal train route, sharing information and raising awareness of the social, environmental, and cultural impacts of coal. We visited the House of Tears carvers while the pole was still being prepared for its journey.
We have a lot of tribes here in the Pacific Northwest, all the way to Powder River, Wyoming, that are going to be impacted by a proposed coal terminal that's coming here to Lummi territory. And so we proposed this totem pole journey. On the bottom of the totem pole, you'll see 4 salmon. There's actually 5 salmon carved into the pole itself. Just above those are 2 men. They're kneeling down, one on the right and one on the left. And we're hoping that the men will stand up and make sure that their children do not suffer for lack of knowledge, lack of food, lack of protection, or due to failure on our part to protect the environment.
You go and you have a coal train come by, you'll see all open containers because they can't cover them. Now, if they cover them, they'll combust. And all that dust you're breathing in, it's going into the ground, it's affecting our water source. Every community, whether they're tribal or non-tribal, anybody along that train route will be affected by it.
You say, well, you know, it's just, okay, we got a black dust. It's more than black dust. It's got arsenic and mercury in it. Each train, as it comes uncovered, is going to be dumping solids and particulates into the air. And then when they get here and pile it acres high, it's going to be blowing in the wind. The dust will be dust clouds. In order to keep the dust down, they'll take water out of the river. That's our proposal, fresh water that local cities and counties need for agriculture, for drinking and household use, will be used to keep their coal dust down. There's many ways that you can destroy the river and its benefits to the salmon populations. And so we argue that we have, all of us as a people, not just Indians, everybody that's dependent on the water and the rivers, have a right to have that environment protected.
Our ancestors, our elders, you know, my mother taught us when the tide's out, the table's set. And if this coal port was to go through, gone. We won't be able to eat our shellfish. I have a niece that lives up in Canada. She comes down here because they cannot eat off their beaches because it's all contaminated. They're not allowed to eat off their beaches. Their table is empty.
To dip your net in the water and to come up empty is no right at all, is what Judge Ulrich ruled. You know, that's phase 2 of U.S. versus Washington. In other words, tribes have the right to have the environment protected. You know, a lot of times being a citizen is not enough. A citizen doesn't always have the capacity to stop a corporation. Sometimes they need to work with the tribes. That's what this journey is about. We want tribes to come together. We want the people from the counties and the cities to come together. Whatever it takes, we have to look at it, we have to work together and try to address this potential threat to our environment and, more importantly, the environment of our children. Well, we're loading the totem pole up and we're heading to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians. And we're going to be there and we're going to ask those leaders to give us and the journey itself their blessing, because it's about bringing their voices out to the public so that the people know the tribe and their leadership are concerned and they're taking a position. The journey itself is intended to follow as close as we can the railroad tracks that the coal's going to be transported upon. And so we're going on I-90, whatever road it takes to be as close to those railroad tracks, because those are the communities that are going to be the impact most immediately. All of us will be eventually as the coal dust is washed from the stream and the creeks into the river, out into the ocean. But in the meanwhile, we need to really help those communities that aren't being heard. The reality is that you can do something about it. You can stop the contamination. You can stand up and be heard. You can give a voice to those children that can't talk yet. You can speak out for them.
After meeting with the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians, the House of Tears carvers traveled to Wyoming and Montana, where much of the coal originates. Keep watching to see more of the journey of this amazing totem pole later in this episode.
That's 63 tons of coal falling off on your streams and your creeks, going into your water.
Later in this episode, we'll journey with the House of Tears carvers as their totem pole makes its way to its final destination in Canada. But up next, we'll visit a summer camp that is introducing Native youth to a very unique sport.
Most of the time I kind of get in the buck and shoot, and I kind of stand over him.
It changed how I saw myself, and it showed me what I could do and what I couldn't do, and it helps you as a life a lot. It helps you motivate yourself.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in jobs. Job-creating investments like the $350 million container terminal in Tacoma.
Puyallup Tribe, through Marine View Ventures, is partnering with SSA Marine to develop a 200-acre, 3-berth terminal, which at full build-out will be the largest terminal in the Pacific Northwest.
Tribal governments are investing in Washington's economy, creating jobs in many different industries. Everyone's working together to make it happen.
Who says that all good things must come to an end? That nothing lasts forever? That you can't turn the tide for good? For us, protecting nature comes so naturally. We're the tribes in Western Washington, stewards, and have been for centuries to come.
Washington Indian tribes are investing in the environment. The Nisqually tribe has undertaken the restoration of the Nisqually River Delta.
The goal of the project is to remove all the dikes, reflood the estuary, and help bring back the salmon runs.
The Delta is a huge piece of our environmental efforts. So we feel this really deep internal desire to keep the river as well as these surrounding prairies in the best shape possible.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. Every year on the Colville Indian Reservation, a bull riding camp is held for local youth. Taught by a renowned rodeo champion, the camp is an exciting opportunity to build confidence, community, and character. NWIN's Debbie Condon brings us the story.
4 years ago, Shane Proctor, the 2011 PRCA bull riding champion, founded this bull riding school in Nisqually, Washington, in order to give back to the local community that helped launch his professional bull riding career.
We're warming up our gloves.
It's really healthy for our kids to learn to do this. They have to work out and a lot of physical activity. As you know, diabetes is a big part of our community. And when these kids get in shape, they're keeping things like diabetes away from them, and they're not getting into trouble. Usually in the community where the cowboys are at, it's healthier.
You got a hole with your feet, but you got a hole?
I won my first rodeo here back probably in the 80s. I have nephews that ride and participate now, and it makes me feel good that they want to be involved in rodeos.
You know, this arena means a lot to me. I was born in Grand Coulee, Washington, spent my whole high school career there. This arena here in Nisqually, Washington is where I learned to ride. I mean, it's just something growing up in the community that comes together. It helped me get to where I am today. That's the reason why I come back and put the school on. This is the fourth year that we've had this school. And I wanted to give something back to the people that helped me and the community that helped me. You know, this is a very proud community. It's really rich in rodeo history.
The local and surrounding communities have donated a lot of their time, knowledge, and money to help with this event.
There you go.
A prime example is the stock used for these 33 cowboys and 1 cowgirl.
We get all volunteers, and some people give donations. We raise buck and bulls, and we get to bring them here as young ones and try them out and kind of see what's going on. These kids get to get on as much stock as they want, so it works out good.
These young bulls are learning right alongside with the young cowboys.
My cousins, you know, that were bull riders, I seen what it did for them. That confidence, that self-confidence, because wow, I can outride this big old bull. So it builds confidence in our kids. You know, even though it's just a steer, they're like, man, if I can match a steer, I can handle anything out there. And so that's kind of how I see, you know, our kids that are in the rodeo. If they can do that, there's nothing they can't do.
Most of the time I kind of get in the buck and shoot, and I kind of stand over him.
It changed how I saw myself, and it showed me what I could do and what I couldn't do, and it helps you with life a lot. It helps you motivate yourself. Today I got on 6 bulls, well 6 steers and a couple cows, and got stepped on every single time. It's just part of the sport though. It's fun actually. That adrenaline rush gets you going. You just want to keep getting on more and more every time you get on.
My goal is to help one kid. It doesn't matter if they pick up something and from me about riding bulls or just about life. It's to help that one kid and maybe give that one kid an extra chance to survive or succeed. If it gives them a vision or a light to move on to the next level, whether it's going to college or whether it's in bull riding, you know, I just want to help them reach what they're capable of reaching.
From the bumps and bruises of these young cowboys in the small rodeo arena come the hopes and dreams of tomorrow's youth. For Northwest Indian News, I'm Debbie Condon.
Next, we'll learn how tribal leaders from across the Northwest are coming together to help Native students make the transition to college.
I was very excited to see UW at Bothell come in with a presentation on the Tribal Education Network. I'm really looking forward to the culturally responsive curriculum that gets developed in these cases.
That story and more on this episode of Northwest Indian News.
We have our own way of thinking. We think sustainability is nothing new. We think justice is older than any government. We think we can grow radishes on the moon. We think the war against diabetes is fought on the basketball court. We think the same berries we pick today should be here for another 7 generations. We think education is for the mind and the spirit. We think Indian.
Help tribal college students preserve their way of thinking.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in education. In Auburn, the Muckleshoot tribe just opened a new state-of-the-art $40 million school for up to 500 students in grades K through 12.
The tribe has made an investment in the Muckleshoot people, not just into facilities, but into the people to gain an education.
We want our children to be able to succeed in life. We want them to be able to compete with anyone in the world and achieve whatever they need to in their lives.
College can be an exciting yet overwhelming time in anyone's life, but for Native American students, it can come with unique challenges. For some, it is the first time they will attend a school off their reservation and away from their culture. Tribal leaders and the University of Washington are working together to find ways to make the transition to higher education successful for Native students. Leandra Smith brings us more.
Each year, the Tribal Leadership Summit brings together leaders of area tribes with the University of Washington. The summit is an opportunity to strengthen the partnerships between the First Nations and the university, and to find new ways to support Native students making the transition from life on the reservation to life on the college campus.
My father was a tribal leader for 43 years. He understood that the only way that we would be able to promote employment, manage any type of business, is to educate in the Western formal education our young tribal members.
When you think of the power that education has in terms of expanding your mind, moving on with your career, being able to influence your own children, your grandchildren, education builds a toolkit helping you succeed into this new millennium.
We believe that an educated population, an educated tribal population, is a key to securing our future and our treaty rights, and working together with universities and higher education institutions plays a vital role in enhancing our ability to make the most of our resources, make them sustainable, and secure a foundation for our people.
Our number one goal, without a doubt, is to educate our children. That's the first and foremost goal of each and every one of us.
We have a high rate of dropout with our students. We come from different backgrounds, different culture, different language. So one of our biggest challenges is to create and work and partner with our K-12 institutions, our college institutions, to become more indigenizing, more culturally responsive to our students.
One of the programs introduced at this year's summit was the Tribal Education Network, a program designed to make the transition into the university system easier through online learning, mentorship, and relevant content.
One of the challenges has been presenting students with relevant cases that they can learn from that have to do with the tribe. One of the pieces that I'm really excited about is actually capturing stories from tribal leaders. So if we have the content area being about organizational effectiveness or human resources. So we're actually going to go out and find tribal leaders to give us an example of how they've tackled this problem at their own job, at their own organization. We want the cases to be developed with the tribal leaders themselves. So that way when we are presenting it in the classroom, we're actually presenting a story from a tribal leader.
I was very excited to see UW at Bothell come in with a presentation on the Tribal Education Network. I'm really looking forward to the culturally responsive curriculum that gets developed in these cases.
We hope to have all the tribes of the Pacific Northwest involved in this project. At the end of our breakout session, we did get over 20 names and email addresses, so we'll be contacting them really soon about moving this project forward.
Well, I hope to see an atmosphere that's conducive to learning for our students, that's open for them to share and express their thoughts and ideas, and just promotes their self-expression, because we need their creativity, we need their innovation, and bring those types of things back home when they complete their college or wherever they may be.
For Northwest Indian News, this is Leandra Smith reporting.
Visit NWIN.TV, where you can view every episode of Northwest Indian News on demand.
You kind of go with the idea that you're going to gather some prayers and participate in some ceremonies, talk to a few people. But as you go through it, you realize just how moved people are, and how serious they are about protecting their part.
You can also watch NWIN and other Native programming at tulaliptv.com. Coming up next, we'll follow the House of Tears carvers as they embark on their 1,200-mile journey of healing.
Just like the 160 nations in British Columbia said no.
Hey!
Hey!
To my tribe, I'm more than a student. I'm an example that it's possible to get an education.
Education can end poverty, violence,
and health issues on the res.
On the reservation, tribal students find ways to turn their education into an entire tribe's education.
Even when only 5% of Indians on the reservation
Only 5% of Indians
can afford to go to college.
If I do nothing, 25,000 people will continue to live in poverty.
I will help 2 million people educate themselves.
I'll keep 173,000 people from losing their sacred home.
Hey!
Well, culture is important to the Suquamish people because it's an honoring of our ancestral ways and traditions and the ways that have been part of this landscape for thousands of years. So for us, we're honoring our ancestors, and we're also building for our future generations, our youth.
You are welcome to come ashore, and yes, our culture is alive.
I couldn't be more proud of the Suquamish.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. Fueled by concerns for the environment from a series of proposed coal terminals, the House of Tears carvers began a 1,200-mile journey to rally tribes and communities to protect our lands and waters. NWIN's Jay Masikan Shada continues the story.
Traveling with the 22-foot totem pole, the House of Tears carvers, along with witnesses and support crew, made a journey from the coal mines of Montana to northern British Columbia, holding rallies and ceremonies along the way. We met with the group during their journey to learn more about the issues and hear stories from their travels.
Oh, it's been an amazing experience. A lot of really awesome people opening their hearts. They've opened their homes, they've opened their communities, and it just allowed us to come in with such open arms. It's been a beautiful experience.
Some of these villages and some of these places we stopped are really poor, but they put together whatever they had and they welcomed us. You begin to realize through this journey that you're not alone and that other people are struggling or other people are succeeding, but to really make progress, we have to do it together. We're realizing the impacts, and we see global warming happening. I think that's why they're so willing to contribute, is because they know that their children and their children's children are going to be left with the poisons and the responsibility to try to clean up a mess that we've created or contributed to in some way.
So 57 tribes have said no to coal. This just doesn't make sense for us as a state and a community or sovereign nations or individuals. It just doesn't make sense for us as people to pollute our landscape the way that corporations are proposing to pollute our landscape. This land that we live on that nourishes us, it was given to us by our Creator, and it's worth fighting for.
Stand up and warrior up. Warrior up and say no. Say no. Just like the 160 nations in British Columbia said no to the Alberta tar sands.
This is awareness, this is developing relationships and building bridges, and it's creating a consciousness that we all have to do our part. We all have to contribute something, or else nothing's going to change.
When we think about business in this country, we seem unable to take the long view that is necessary in order to protect the environment.
I think more and more different religious traditions, at least in the United States, have come together around this notion of stewardship for the earth. We have an obligation to care for everything else, and what's becoming increasingly clear is that if we fail to care for the earth, then basically we're fouling our own nest.
My family has been involved in the fight to save Otter Creek since before I can remember.
On an individual level, it does feel like, well, what can I do? What is my presence going to mean? But on a community level, it means everything, because if I don't show up and I don't offer my voice, and I don't offer my testimony, and I don't offer my reason, then maybe the person that needed to hear it for that day doesn't hear it and can't continue in their feeling like what they have to say means something. The power of people coming together and uniting and seeing how when it's all put together it makes a really big difference, and it's been that way from Montana all the way back.
You know, you kind of go with the idea that you're going to gather some prayers and participate in some ceremonies, talk to a few people, but as you go through it, you realize just how moved people are, you know, and how serious they are about protecting their part, doing their part to protect the earth. And, you know, and you can't ask them to do ceremonies and prayers like that and listen to their words and then not pack them with you. You got to make a commitment to follow up in every way that you can. So that's what we hope that we're stimulating, is more and more initiative by people to do their part. You know, open up their ears, open up your eyes. You know, this isn't going away. This is a real conflict, but we got to do our share. And so I think that's the biggest thing. We're moved even stronger to speak up. Otherwise, there's a great injustice. And when you know the difference between right and wrong, you're at fault if you fail to speak up.
The healing pole will continue its journey into Canada, where it will be raised at the Tsleil-Waututh Nation of North Vancouver, demonstrating unity with Canadian First Nations against the destruction of the environment. Keep watching as we continue to follow these stories. For Northwest Indian News, I'm Jay Masikan-Shada reporting.
I'm Carissa Peapud-Gobin, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories we brought to you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Northwest Indian News.